Hey there guys, this is Flamsaron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and I'm going to review Garo Crimson Moon, the animation. It says in the top right there. Um, for this one, you're probably thinking this one is super late. Um, and even when I was watching it, I was also watching it kind of late. I wasn't watching it while it was being simulcast, at least not like really closely with it. I watched it on Funimation's YouTube channel as they were uploading it. I think they had already had all the episodes on the Funimation website at that point, but I watched it on YouTube because that's where I watched Shimoneta, if I'm pronouncing that right, because I don't remember how to pronounce that show. But I figured better late than never, especially considering one, Berseria and Super and all this other stuff has been taking up my time, and pretty soon there's going to be a bit more of an influx in reviews and whatnot. I just haven't had too much time to make videos, but I've made some, and I don't know when this is going to go up. This might go up sometime after some of the batch that I've already done will go up. And I've already reviewed it on my podcast, which if you want to listen to that, there'll be a link in the description so you can, listen to it. But in any case, I'm going to go ahead and review this. Now, I don't have any sort of like witty segue. For those of you who don't know what this is, I guess I should start with that. This is the second season of the Garo anime. It's sort of like a tokusatsu approach in that the second season is a completely new story with new characters. This one's called Garo Crimson Moon, which is set in feudal Japan. I don't remember what specific time. I think probably sometime after the whole Nobunaga thing. If this story is even following that, which it may not. In fact, I'm pretty sure every character is like original. I don't think there are any characters that are like based off of like any specific hero besides I say hero, but like historical figure besides Seimei Abe. But even then, I feel like it's not really like based. I don't think. I think it's just like a name kind of thing. I don't think they actually intended Seimei to be based on the actual Seimei, as far as I know. I could be completely off. It's been a while, so some of the details are probably going to be a little fuzzy. I did write notes that were mainly written during like the last 4 episodes. And I broke it up into parts. So I'll just talk about that in that sort of structure. The first part being episodes 1 through 12. It's mainly just character development like you would expect from most 2 core shows or 2 season shows. I mean, or like 2 parts or whatever. Like one being 1 through 12 and then the other being like 13 through 20, whatever. Here in this first season we learn about the main characters. Raiko, who's our protagonist. He's the current Garo Knight, and he's trying to do good things. He's a bit of a justice kind of guy. And then we also meet Seimei, who's like the alchemist. For those who watched the first season, I don't remember the name of the character, but there was that alchemist woman who was helping out Leon and Alfonso and Herman and whatnot, or German. I don't remember his name, but Leon's father. And then also Kintoki, who's like this little ninja kid who kind of helps out Raiko. He's sort of like the assistant character. He's like a servant. But it's mainly character development. We learn a little bit about the characters as it goes on. Most of the episodes are sort of like, I don't want to say self-contained stories, because I don't think that's entirely true. I feel like they slowly build up, and they show more about the world. It's really sort of like a character and world building section of the story, I feel, to let us get to know the characters, and so that we can kind of figure them out. We do learn some things about the characters. Like the first one I think we learn about is Seimei, that she's the daughter of the royal Abe family, who her parents became horrors, and she was raised and taught Makai Alchemy by, I believe it's Domon Hoshi. I think it's Domon Hoshi. I could be completely wrong. Um, I think she was it was either Domon Hoshi or her grandfather. I'm leaning towards her grandfather. Um, I can't remember. I remember her having some connection with Domon Hoshi. It may have just been that she knew Domon Hoshi and Ashia Domon. Which I'll get to Ashia in a minute. He's got some interesting things about him, and her real name is Kiyome. Um, Raiko, his story, I feel like, is sort of like more interesting than Seime's, and I feel like it goes along with the theme of like political corruption, because I feel like this season, and I'm gonna keep calling it a season because one, it's already been announced that there's gonna be another Garo anime, and two, like I said before, I feel like this is meant to be sort of like an animated tokusatsu, like a Power Rangers or Super Sentai kind of thing, and Garo is, live action tokusatsu, and they're still doing that, but they're also doing this anime, which will probably be the main way I follow it if I continue. I'm not entirely sure. But in regards to Raiko, he is also part of a royal family, the Minamoto family, and he was thrown out as a baby because their family wanted it might have been mainly their dad. They wanted their older son or their younger son or I don't remember what the age difference is between Raiko and Yorinobu, but there's a bit of an age difference. I think Raiko might be a bit older, but they wanted Yorinobu to inherit the golden armor instead, but Raiko got it, and they're like, okay, well, fuck Raiko then, so they threw him out. I think he went by a different name as well, but I don't remember that name, and he's found by Seimei in the snow, and all that stuff. Kind of like I don't remember if Leon had this in the first series or not, but Raiko has a lock on his Garo ring, so Seimei has to like unseal his Garo powers, and I think it's due to from what I remember, I think it has to do with like sort of like his underlying anger towards his family throwing him out, because based on the context of the story, he knows what happened, which makes sense. Like he knows what's happened, from what I remember, because like I think I remember like the way it was more like not like, oh, you didn't know this, Raiko, but you were a part of a royal family. He's like, what? Like I'm pretty sure he already knew, and he had some anger towards that, and that comes up like near the end when it's sort of the ultimate battle between Raiko and Ashia Domon. So that was a nice, interesting episode when they revealed that, and I feel like that is sort of like a good symbol or representation of sort of like the political corruption that's present in this show. Because while all these episodes are going on, like building up all these characters, they also are showing, I think it's called the Light Palace, sort of like the main place with what's his name? I don't remember his Michinaga, I believe. Yeah, Michinaga, who's like the ruler of the Light Palace. He's a bit corrupt, and he's a bit selfish, and due to this, the horrors are able to sort of sneak into the Light Palace due to the darkness from political corruption. That is directly from my notes. And the last couple of episodes of Part 1 involve this crisis and whatnot. Before I get into that, I just want to note a couple of cool episodes involving probably my favorite character, which is Yasusuke. And he goes by like so many fucking other names. Like the name that he gives himself after like his big episode is Hakamadare or something. And then when he gets the Silver Knight, he goes by Zanga, which but that episode's episode 5, where Yasusuke he's a member of the of I think the whatever Michinaga's last name is. I think it's Fujiwara or something, or Fujiwara Fuji something. And he wants to marry this commoner woman who's poor. In fact, I think I remember him naming her something like commoner, like in Japanese. I don't remember. But she has some sort of like given name, and he wants to marry her. But of course, the royal family's like, "Oh, you can't marry a poor person. That's gross. You have to marry someone who's actually pretty and shit." And he's like, "But I love her," and she actually kind of turns him down a little bit. I from or like she sort of brings up the fact like we can't be together because of your royalty and whatnot. So even she's sort of doubting things a little. I'm pretty sure she still loved him, but I remember her sort of like doubting things a little bit. And he's all like, "I'm gonna renounce my royalty," and of course, due to this, he gets like a complete redesign to where he looks like an actual character. And I'm pretty sure like he went from having like dark hair to like green hair. Um, and like his entire like his voice changes a bit. He's voiced by Daisuke Namikawa, who voiced Leon in the first season. I should also note that Raiko is actually voiced by one of the live-action Garo actors, which was pretty cool. His performance was decent. He had a good voice. You could kind of tell where he was he's more used, in some lines you could kind of tell that he was still used to like physically acting and not just acting purely with his voice. I mean, I know with voice acting you can do things to sort of like get the words out a little better. If you've watched James Arnold Taylor's YouTube videos and you watch like his like recording sessions, you see him like do like all these little things to like just get the words out a little bit. Like it's almost like he's taking his hands and like pulling the words out of his mouth. Like, if you should definitely watch it, it's pretty interesting. But overall, I'd say he did a pretty good job. I was pleased with it, at least. Seimei, I believe, is voiced by Romi Paku. She did a good job as well. While we're at it, Ashia Domon is actually voiced by Tomokazu Seki, who you'll recognize as Gilgamesh in the Fate series and Ston from Tales of Destiny. Which Gilgamesh, that voice is probably closer to his Ashia Domon voice. But if you know him primarily as Ston, like I do, it's definitely kind of weird hearing him do like this really low voice, and he does a good job too. You can still tell it's him. But he does a pretty good job of making it sound unique, I think. Really sort of clean and clear and whatnot. I thought it was. He's voiced by Raiko, that is. He's voiced by Masai Nakayama, who's one of the Garo actors. I don't remember what series he was. And as far as I know, this may have been his only voice acting role. For all I know, I'm pretty sure it was just like he's only here for this one thing. I don't think he's gonna. I pulled it up on Wikipedia. Apparently, his name is Yorimitsu. That was his original name. Also, this anime is dubbed in English. Raiko's voiced by Clifford Chapman and whatnot. And I think the first part is actually out on DVD and Blu-ray. I don't know if I'm gonna pick it up. I enjoyed it. I'll go ahead and say that I don't know if I like it enough to buy it on like home release or whatever. But I'll go more into details as we continue. So yeah, but Ashia Domon, he does a good job with his voice. Other than that, I can't really think of any standout characters. No, there aren't too many characters that really their voices really stood out to me. But yeah, episode 5 where he renounces like Ryasuke and renounces his royalty and becomes a thief. That was a good episode because I felt like it was great character development for him. Going back a little bit, episode 4 where Raiko meets Kaguya and gets a crush on her. That was a good episode as well because it kind of showed a different side of Raiko, because he's been very focused this entire time, and even though like yeah they show that like deep down he's had like this anger inside him like Velvet. No, sort of. I'm joking. But like besides him having like it shows that besides him having like this justice side, he's also got like a bit of a different like more emotional side. He handled it pretty well, and of course Kaguya comes back near the end, but I thought that was a pretty good episode, and I guess I should say, they have Kaguya. So they have Kaguya and Semeabe for their historical figures so far. I don't remember if they had like a Nobunaga equivalent, but it's definitely, ancient Japan. I say ancient Japan, but more feudal Japan is probably more appropriate, I guess. The next notable episode that I noted was episode 11 of the first. I'm pretty sure it was episode 11. The numbering on this series is a little confusing because if you're watching it on YouTube, on the Funimation channel, they don't include like this talk show, which is apparently like episode. It's like it counts as an episode, and because of that, the rest of the series like goes off of that number. And I think even on YouTube they do that. So it'll say like if you go on the Funimation website, they'll say it'll show that extra episode that you can watch, but on YouTube you can't. So the numbering's a little off if you're trying to like follow along or look ahead or whatever. Shouldn't be a big issue if you're just watching it on DVD or if you're just watching it and like not like looking at like episode titles of like next episode or like looking at a list to see how far you are or whatever. But episode 11 is the episode where Yasusuke actually becomes the Silver Knight. There's this horror, which I guess I should explain what the horrors are like. Think of it kind of like the Hellions in Zestiria. It's kind of like, it's actually very similar to that. Horrors are like these humans turned into monsters due to like corruption inside them. That's basically what it is. Like the malevolence, the demons, demon blight has struck again. But there's this one guy who was competing with Yasusuke when he was actually part of royalty, like playing fucking foot soccer, or something, playing some sport, and like he was competing with Yasusuke, and he's like, I want to be cool like him and be better than him. So he became a horror later on. He came back and he's like, oh fuck you, Yasusuke. And throughout this episode, they show like Yasusuke kind of walking around, and then there's one scene where it shows him like talking to one of the Garo rings. It's not Zaruba or anything. It's a different one, which Zaruba is still voiced by Hironobu Kageyama, which that's pretty cool. He's talking to the ring that he has, and then they show, and then like as the episode gets to its climax, they show him like getting the Silver Knight armor, and he's like, "My name is Zonga. I am the Silver Knight." And then they play his awesome theme song, which the music in this show is great. It's very stylized. The running or like action or chase music is like like that's a pretty good song. Zonga's theme is great. It is epic. The Garo transformation music is awesome. Like the music in this show is great. The opening theme song by Jam Project is awesome. The ending theme songs by Sayaka Sasaki, I believe her name is, they are great as well. I like the first opening better than the second opening, personally, because I like sort of like that Western sort of like ancient Japan sound to it. Like it's kind of weird. Like it almost kind of sounds like a Western or like sort of like a folky sort of music. It's kind of interesting. I love the way it's done. It's really good. And so it shows Yasusuke be all cool, and he gets to do like the weird reverb yell, the I don't know if that came through in the mic or not, but maybe I'm looking at the waveform. But you'll know it when you watch it. It has this cool curved sword. It was just really cool. And he like destroys the bad guy, and that was pretty cool. That was a great episode. But yeah, and of course there's also a episode I have in my notes like right afterwards. The whole Samei having a lock on Raiko's Garo powers due to him being uncertain and hesitant, and the fact that he has darkness in him due to his past. That's the anger. And I put down that there's an episode where Garo the Gold Knight turns dark and comes out and he goes crazy and shit. I don't remember that episode currently. I remember the episode in the second part where that happens and he's like, I've overcome the darkness, you know. But yeah, kind of similar to Leon's situation, I think, where like he went crazy and then he like lost his Garo powers. Raiko doesn't lose his Garo powers, I'm pretty sure. He's a, in terms of comparing him to Leon, Raiko's a bit more stable, I think. But yeah, going back to the end, there's this big crisis where like Raiko and like Seimei and the gang, they have to come in like protect the people from the Light Palace, and horrors get like these group of hostage, and they also like get a hold on Raiko, and Raiko's like, save them, don't worry about me. She has to pick one though. She has to like pick one or the other, because like the other will die. I think it's like some sort of like, if like they get broken out, like something bad will happen. I don't remember, but she chooses to save Raiko over the hostages, and he gets mad about that, and she gets depressed, and then the darkness consumes her, and even like the end's like, darkness, huh? And then she gets all dark and shit. Ashiya Domon, he kills Domon Hoshi. And Seimei, she becomes the new vessel for something called Rudra, which is a giant horror that's evil, and Ashiya's plan is to like merge with Rudra so he can get even more darkness and kill the world. His motivation is a little sort of cliche. He's like, evil, 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 bad, bad, bad. He doesn't really seem to have like any sort of like, he's not like a Tails villain or anything like that. He's all like evil, evil, evil. But yeah, that's from what I remember of the first season in a nutshell. The only other thing I can note that's on this list is that at first, the Garo Knight, and even the Silver Knight as well, the Garo Knight just looks like a typical like Garo, like medieval like lion knight. It clashes a little bit with the setting. I feel like that's kind of on purpose though, and Raiko's non-armor Makai Knight costume is like that white cloak thing, which I feel like most people who are familiar with Garo would probably expect from this series. But like near the end of part 1, he gets like this samurai version of the Garo armor, which is sort of like its super form, or something like that. So yeah, I guess now on to part 2. But yeah, this is where it's more focused on like trying to figure out how to defeat Rudra and whatnot. Rudra's sealed in the moon, the Crimson Moon, and has to take over a vessel, which is Seimei, in order to regain full power and resurrect and, to quote my notes, fuck shit up. And Red Lightning is coming and also fucking shit up. And remember I said Kaguya comes back. She actually comes back, and it turns out that she's a tool that can be used to seal away Rudra, but her power's not strong enough to do it while Rudra is dormant. What they're trying to go for here is that basically Seimei has to be killed in order to save the world. That's what they claim. But of course, Raiko's all like, no, we can save her and kill Rudra at the same time, which of course they do. It's also revealed, I remember I said that like Ashiya Domon was all like darkness, darkness, darkness. That's mostly true, but there's a scene where it's revealed that Ashiya Domon is actually Michinaga's brother. Remember Michinaga Fujiwara, who is like the head of like the Light Palace. Turns out that Ashiya is his brother, who's cast away in a river, and he's still a little butthurt about it. I still feel like that he still sort of like preaches the whole darkness thing. And honestly, it doesn't really come up that much again. Like the whole like, from what I remember, his whole like, I was cast away in a river. I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't use that against Raiko to like sort of like demoralize him and make him turn evil. But yeah, and my next notes are like, just a recap of episodes 21 and 22. 21, Yasuke is ordered to kill Seimei because Raiko didn't/couldn't. Both are true in different ways. He didn't because he didn't want to, and 2, he couldn't because he didn't want to. Possessed by Rudra, Seimei kills Yasumasa, who is Yasusuke's brother, and now Yasusuke is all like, well, okay, now fuck Seimei. And Raiko wants to save her, and so they duke it out in their Makai Knight forms, and Yasuke wins and tries to kill Seimei, but she survives and survives his strike and goes away and retreats. And Raiko, they didn't have Raiko and Yasuke have another duel in their regular forms, and Raiko wins, and Yasuke promises not to fight Seimei anymore. And the typical like Clash of the Knights battle. The same thing happened with the first series with Leon and Alfonso, from what I remember. That one is more about like a battle to have the right to wear the golden armor. And I think in the next episode, I think in like the ending episode, or like in the ending of that episode, they reveal that like, yes, Leon did get the golden armor back. Episode 21, Seimei is saved by her grandpappy, Haburaki, who's a powerful alchemist, using a ritual for Raiko to reach inside her heart and like pull out the evil, and like pull her out from like being a poopy face and whatnot. But Ashiya tries to interrupt, and Kintoki and Yorinobu and some chick named Inari, who was this weird maiden chick who gives the Makai Knights orders. She's like what's her name? She's voiced by Sayaka Sasaki, I believe. She's I don't remember her name, but like the chick who was like wearing all white and had like white hair, was basically just completely white and was like glowing. And she kept calling Mendoza in the first season. I think Inari is sort of the equivalent of that. She's sort of like this dressed up white face paint thing. They defeat Ashiya, and Seimei is saved, but then Hauraki becomes the new vessel, and of course Ashiya survives. And as you can probably guess, Rudra is resurrected and merges with Ashiya and starts fucking shit up. Raiko and Kintoki and Seimei, they go to fight him, and Yorinobu tries to convince Michinaga to let the commoners take refuge in the Light Palace, but Michinaga's all like, no. So Yorinobu, he then lies and gets the guards to open up the gates, and Michinaga's like, okay, well now you gotta kill Yorinobu now. So more with the political corruptness going on, and sort of like the darkness in people's hearts. I feel like that's sort of like the true theme here, the darkness in people's hearts thing. And randomly Kaguya realizes that random stuff that she's been saying is actually a spell. And Yasuke comes and he's like, hey, I got the rest of the spell for you. And he's like, okay, thanks. And Raiko and Yasuke work together and try to cut out Ashiya from Rudra. It doesn't work, and they have to cut out the darkness of Ashiya. They have to cut the darkness. This show is actually kind of silly when you think about it, because it's a little mellow, dramatic, I think, or sort of cliche. I don't want to say cliche, because I feel like cliche is not a good word, but like sort of, I don't know, you know what I mean. And they just like, they slice up Rudra, and they're both at their limit, and wearing the armor for a long time puts them at risk of being consumed by the armor. And then Raiko goes inside Ashiya but gets corrupted by darkness and becomes the Dark Golden Knight, and then he overcomes it. That's something I was like, I am light! Ah! You know, one of those kind of things. And he's just in the night form, but like wings, and Ashiya and Raiko have a debate over light and darkness. That's in my notes. Oh boy. They have like the, typical, almost sort of like a Tails debate, kind of thing. Raiko kills the darkness, and Kaguya and Seimei do the spell while Raiko and Yasuke protect them. I'm just reading my notes verbatim at this point. And Rudra, for some reason I thought Rudra was a girl just now. Rudra's sealed in the moon again, and Kaguya flies off to the moon, because she's an alien apparently. And then Ashiya survives, and he and Raiko do like that climactic like slash thing, where like they slash and they're on the other side, and it's like a standstill for a little bit, but then like one of them gets on their knee. Usually both, and in those kind of situations I've noticed. Raiko wins, the Seimei holds the feet of Ashiya, and his scars get healed. And he's like, ugh, I'm light now. And then he dies, and the series ends with Raiko looking onward, a little bit off skew from the camera. So that's the end. Yeah, overall, it was alright. I watched it kind of in chunks, So, like I said, like my notes were probably a bit sort of like vague because I don't remember too much. When I was talking about the part one stuff, one episode that also stood out to me was the episode where I think Raiko gets like really tiny. I don't know, for some reason that stood out to me. And there's some other episodes as well. Like the show is what you would expect, I think, if you've watched the first one. It's pretty similar in terms of its setup. First part is sort of like all the character stuff and like all like the world building and character building, and like these little missions that all the good guys do. And then the second part is the bigger story where they fight the big bad. Like I said, music was good, action seemed good, animation was pretty good. Oh, one thing I also forgot to mention is that the character designs were actually done by the Tiger and Bunny guy. And in the first opening, there's a close-up on Raiko's face, and he looks pretty close to Barnaby. He looks a hell of a lot like Barnaby. Other than that, like, there aren't any like too many characters that look similar to Tiger and Bunny characters. King Toki looks sort of like his clothing designs kind of reminds me of Dragon Kid a little bit. Other than that, yeah, I can't really think of anything else about it. I enjoyed it. Music again was good. I actually downloaded the soundtrack just so I could get the Zonga theme. The opening was also good. I downloaded that as well. It's done by Jam Project. It's pretty dope. In the first part where the first opening plays, both openings are done by Jam Project, and both endings are done by Sayaka Sasaki, I believe. But for the first one, in the openings they'll like rotate singers. Like one time it'll be Hironobu Kageyama, another time it'll be Masaki Endo, and whatnot. Whereas the second one, it's just the entire group sort of like, taking their verses and whatnot. But it was a pretty good song, and plot was decent. It was what you would probably expect from something of this caliber. You could kind of hear me chuckle as I was reading my notes. It did seem kind of silly. Like, oh, light and darkness, cut the darkness. I'm being healed. I guess there's light in me after all, and stuff like that. But the plot is actually, I think, pretty good. Like the stuff about Raiko being part of the royal family, Yasusuke renouncing his royalty because he can't be with the woman he loves, and stuff like that. Even Ashia Domon's thing about, being cast away in the river, that was a nice little twist. The political corruptness thing going on, and that sort of idea of like the darkness in people's hearts, the malevolence, if you will. Sorry, I've been playing too much Berseria. That was a pretty cool plot device, and I feel like it did a good job of telling the story. Only real complaint is just the cheesiness, I guess. That's probably the word I was looking for. Cheesiness, like cut the darkness, light and darkness. Like, I mean, I know that this show's demographic is probably towards people who would watch tokusatsus, which I guess from Japan's point of view are maybe children. Obviously, from a North American perspective, adults are watching it because it's more along that nerd culture side of things. Of course, I think kids are also still watching Power Rangers these days. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, other than that, it was a pretty good show. Like I said, music was good, character designs were cool. Like, I enjoyed it. I don't know what I'd give it. Probably like a 7 or 8 out of 10, I guess. Not any like particular reason why that low, I guess, of a number, but like it was decent. It was a nice little watch. I might have to rewatch it again and see if I get anything else out of it. If I want to raise that, I don't know if I'll get it on DVD or not. I know you can watch like I think the first 2 episodes dubbed for free on Funimation's website. And I think now on their new website you can watch the entire thing in HD regardless of whether or not you're watching it dub or subbed. Whereas I think you can only watch the subbed version for free if you don't have Funimation Now or whatever. But yeah, it was a pretty good show, decent one. I'd recommend it if you want to give the Garo series a try. I think I might like it a little bit more than the second one because I like the setting. I liked kind of how there wasn't too much traveling. It was all kind of like in one general location. and it made it feel a bit more enclosed, and I kind of liked that. Um, Even though I do like adventure and traveling stories as well. But yeah, it was pretty good. I can't really think of anything else to say about it other than just repeating myself and saying it's good over and over. But yeah, it was pretty good. I'd recommend it if you want to give it a try. So yeah, this is Flamsaron, aka Tasuke, signing out. See you later.